Hi everyone, this is Cheryl and welcome to my sewing room. I'm going to demonstrate how to make this really easy and very fast to make sewing machine cover. It even has some pockets on the front. But before we get started, I just want to let you know that at the very end of this video are other links you can click on so you can make other items for your sewing room, like this little pin cushion, super quick and easy to make. And then down here I have a fabric scrap bag holder that you can hang near your sewing machine so you can put in those little pieces of thread or little pieces of fabric that you cut off while you're making your project. And also there are other sewing items to make for your sewing room. So let's get started on this really easy, very cute sewing machine cover. I'm going to demonstrate how to make your own custom fit sewing machine cover. Now this is really easy and it doesn't take very long at all. But before I tell you what you need to purchase, you first need to measure your sewing machine. So here's a sketch of a sewing machine. I'm sorry I'm not the best artist in the world, but I think you get the picture. You're going to measure the width, and you're going to measure from the edge down here at the bottom of your machine. You're going to go out past this edge, and whatever distance that the dial is up here, that's how far you're going to go out. So you're going to then add 2 inches to that width. So again, from here all the way out to the distance of where this dial is, and then add 2 inches. The top, or the length, you're going to measure from the bottom here all the way up to the top, then go over the top and go back down to the bottom behind the sewing machine. And that's how long your fabric needs to be. Now here's what you're going to need. Now remember, your measurements are probably going to be a little different than mine. My sewing machine is kind of large, so you might not need quite as much fabric as I did, but I had to purchase 5/8 of a yard of the fabric for the front. This is what I'm using on the front, and I'm using a novelty fabric that has a sewing theme to it. This fabric is going to be used for the pockets on the front of the cover, and it's also going to be the fabric on the back of the cover. You'll also need cotton batting, the same measurement that you're going to cut the fabric for the front and back of the cover. You'll also need Wrights, bias tape, extra wide double fold, and this is what it means by double fold. See, and you fold it over the edge and then we'll stitch it on. So that's what double fold is. I'm using Olfray ribbon, 1.5 inch wide, and it's kind of a decorative ribbon, and it goes really well with the fabric that I have selected. The number of pieces of the ribbon that you need to cut is 4, and you'll need to cut them 18 inches long. I've cut my fabric for the front and the back and the cotton batting 21 by 29 inches. You need to layer them after you cut them out. So the fabric for the back, lay it down first with the pretty side facing down, and you're looking at the back of the fabric. Then lay your cotton batting on top, and then place your fabric for the front or outside of the cover face up on top of the cotton batting. Then all over the top you're going to scatter pins. You can use straight pins or safety pins, and you're going to do quilting stitches. I also call it top stitching because you're stitching it from the top down through all of the layers. So scattering pins all over it helps hold the fabric all together. If you have a walking foot, use the walking foot for this particular project. Your fabric will not be as likely to shift while stitching, but you can still do it with a regular presser foot. So you need to do stitches about 3 inches apart. Now you can do straight stitches going like this, okay? And then you can go back across 3 inches apart going this way. You can also go on a diagonal, which is what I've done, but I use something called a serpentine stitch, which is a wavy line. So if you have that on your machine, you could use the serpentine stitch instead of the straight stitch. So remember, you can go straight up and down and straight across, or at a diagonal. For the pockets, you need to cut 2 pieces that are 7 inches wide by whatever the width was for your sewing machine. In other words, my sewing machine plus the 2 inches was 21 inches wide. So I've cut 2 strips 21 inches long this way and 7 inches wide this way. You're going to bring back sides of the 2 pieces together. Then take your bias tape, and I've already got mine on there, but you just take the bias tape and you unfold it like that just once, and then wrap it over the edge. It's really easy to put on. Wrap it around the edge like I've already done, and then stitch right along here close to the edge, and make sure that you've caught the edge on the back side. After you've got the pockets made, or ready to become pockets, I should say, you need to measure where you want your pockets to be and how big you want them to be. I want to be able to place patterns inside the pockets. So I'm going to have 2 pockets for patterns, and then a 3rd pocket down here for my sewing machine glasses, because I'm always losing them. They're all over the place all the time. I'm always running around looking for them. So this would be a good spot to store those glasses. So your pattern pieces are normally, or pattern cases that they're in, the envelope, are normally around 6 inches wide this way by 8.5 inches this way. So I'm going to space it out to where I have at least a 1/2 inch of space where I'm going to stitch the pockets. So I'm doing a straight line of stitching here and here. You don't want to make your stitch line right up against here, because then you won't be able to get the pattern in there. So you want to allow for space and so that your items can go in there easily. So once you've decided where you want your pocket seams to be, down here, this is the bottom edge, and I've put a little dot there and a little dot here because this is not going to show. Up here I put a straight pin, and then over here I put a straight pin. So this is where you're going to be stitching, from this pin down and this pin down. Now you're going to take your sewing machine cover and place it down here on the lower edge, right up against the lower edge here, and then pin it down. Then I would suggest 2 rows of stitching. Go back and forth a couple of times, and then over here stitch back and forth a few times. Then, to make your next step easier, along the edges, the outside edges, do a machine basting stitch to hold everything in place so that when you put your bias tape on, it's much easier to handle. Before you put the bias tape around all of the edges, you're going to round all 4 corners of the cover. So take a bowl, something round, or a little round plate, and push it to where the edges of the bowl hit the edges of the cover. And you can either draw around it and then cut with scissors, or you can cut with a rotary cutter. So remember, do that on all 4 corners. To determine where your ribbon ties are going to be placed, measure from the bottom of your sewing machine up to this knob right here. Mine measures 7 inches just below this dial. So from each lower edge on 4 sides, you're going to put your ribbon. So before you put the binding on, you're going to measure from 7 inches or whatever yours is. Remember, yours is probably different. Go up this way, place your ribbon underneath the binding, and then stitch your binding on. Now you need to put the binding around all of the edges. So start on the back side, lower bottom of the cover, and begin to place your binding around there. Now you're going to go over about maybe 2 or 3 inches and begin stitching. And stitch all the way around. And then when you get over to where you've almost done, stop a few inches back, then pull it out of your machine, or excuse me, overlap the 2 ends, and then cut any excess off. And you're going to overlap about a 1/2 inch. Then open up your 2 ends, and you're going to have to fold your cover, because it'll be easier to do this next step. And you're going to bring the 2 ends together, front sides of it, stitch about a 1/2 inch to close it up, then fold it back and finish stitching it down. Well, here it is from the side, and here it is from the front. Now, if you liked this video, click on that old thumbs up button. And click on share to share this video with your friends. And if you haven't subscribed yet, click on that red button down there in the lower right hand portion of your screen. Don't forget to enter your email address and click on that little bell notification so that you will receive emails about my latest video. I'm Cheryl, and I'm so glad you came to my sewing room. I'll see you next time, and don't forget, happy sewing.